On September 26, 2025, the Cuban government made a historic announcement: the death of Assata Shakur, known in the United States as Joanne Chesimard. This news marked the end of a decades-long international saga that had captured the attention of governments, activists, and the public on both sides of the Florida Straits. For years, her name had been synonymous with controversy, and her story had become a symbol of unresolved tensions between Cuba and the U.S. Shakur died in Havana at the age of 77, after spending more than 4 decades living in exile. Protected from U.S. extradition by the Cuban government, she built a quiet life far from the country that once called her one of its most wanted fugitives. In Cuba, she became a part of the local community, her presence both a secret and an open truth among neighbors. For U.S. law enforcement and for the family of the state trooper she was convicted of killing, her death closes the door on any remaining hope that she might one day return to face justice in an American courtroom. The news brought a sense of finality, but also reopened old wounds for those who had waited decades for closure. Yet for many around the world, Assata Shakur was never simply a criminal. She became a symbol of resistance, a woman who, in their eyes, escaped an unjust system and stood up against oppression. Her story inspired generations of activists who saw her as a beacon of hope and defiance. Her story has always divided opinion. To some, she was a murderer who escaped justice. To others, she was a freedom fighter, a survivor of a system stacked against her. The debate over her legacy has raged for decades, shaping conversations about race, justice, and the meaning of resistance. With her passing, these debates are reignited, sparking new questions about justice, race, and power in America. Her life and death force us to examine the ways in which history is written, and who gets to write it. Assata's journey, from a young activist in New York to a convicted felon to a political exile in Cuba, remains a flashpoint for unresolved questions about the past. Her escape from prison and flight to Cuba became legendary, fueling both outrage and admiration. Her life inspired not only activists but also artists, writers, and musicians. She became a muse for those seeking justice, her words and image fueling movements and controversy alike. Her story continues to echo in art, music, and protest. Even in death, Assata Shakur remains a figure who forces us to confront the complexities of history. Her legacy is debated in classrooms, memorialized in art, and remembered in vigils across continents. The conversation about who Assata Shakur was and what she represents is far from over. Her story continues to challenge us, inviting reflection on justice, freedom, and the power of belief. Born Joanne Chesimard in New York, Assata grew up amid the turbulence of the civil rights era. Frustrated by slow progress, she became active in student movements and soon joined the Black Power movement. Her activism led her to the Black Panther Party, known for both community programs and militant self-defense. She adopted the name Assata Shakur, embracing a new identity rooted in African heritage and revolution. The political climate grew tense as the government, through COINTELPRO, targeted Black activists. Assata and her peers felt under siege, pushing some toward more radical resistance. This era shaped her beliefs and actions, making her a central figure in the struggle for Black liberation. For Assata, activism was survival, not just politics. Her commitment to change set her on a path that would make her both a symbol and a fugitive. Understanding her activism is key to understanding her legacy. In May 1973, what began as a routine traffic stop on the New Jersey Turnpike quickly spiraled into chaos, erupting into a deadly shootout that would change lives forever. Assata Shakur, Zaid Malik Shakur, and Sundiata Acoli were stopped by state troopers that night. Within moments, gunfire broke out, leaving Trooper Werner Foerster and Zaid dead, and Assata gravely wounded. The scene was chaotic, with bullets flying and confusion reigning on both sides. The events of that night remain hotly debated to this day, with conflicting accounts from police, witnesses, and the accused. Some say it was an ambush. Others insist it was self-defense. Assata was arrested at the scene, hospitalized for her injuries, and later put on trial. In 1977, after a lengthy and highly publicized legal battle, she was convicted of first-degree murder and several other charges. The prosecution painted her as a dangerous cop killer, determined to strike at the heart of law enforcement. Her defense, however, argued passionately that she was too badly injured to have fired a weapon and that she was singled out because of her activism and political beliefs. The trial was marked by controversy, allegations of racism, and claims of political bias. In the end, the jury found her guilty, and she was sentenced to life in prison, a verdict that would echo far beyond the courtroom. For law enforcement, justice had been served. But for her supporters, the outcome was a grave miscarriage of justice, fueling protests and outrage across the country. The conviction cemented her status as both a villain in the eyes of some and a martyr to others, her name now a symbol of resistance and controversy. But even as the prison doors closed behind her, Assata's story was far from over. Her spirit and determination would not be contained by concrete walls and iron bars. The next chapter in her life would be even more dramatic, filled with daring escapes, international intrigue, and a growing legend. The legend of Assata Shakur was just beginning, destined to inspire, divide, and captivate for decades to come. In 1979, Assata Shakur's supporters orchestrated a daring prison break, freeing her from a New Jersey facility. She vanished into a network of safe houses, becoming one of America's most wanted fugitives. For years, she evaded capture, her legend growing among those who saw her as a hero. In 1984, she resurfaced in Cuba, where Fidel Castro's government granted her asylum. Cuba became her sanctuary, allowing her to live openly, write, and speak out. Her autobiography became a touchstone for activists worldwide. The U.S. government never stopped seeking her return, but Cuba refused extradition, framing her case as political, not criminal. In exile, Assata found a measure of freedom, but remained a wanted woman. Her escape and new life in Cuba only deepened the divide over her legacy. She became a symbol of both defiance and controversy. The U.S. pursuit continued, but she was out of reach. Assata's story is inseparable from the Black Liberation Army, a militant offshoot of the Black Power movement. Unlike the public-facing Panthers, the BLA operated underground, advocating armed resistance against systemic oppression. Law enforcement labeled the BLA a terrorist group, linking it to violent acts and targeting its members relentlessly. Assata's alleged leadership role made her a prime target. In 2013, the FBI placed her on its most wanted terrorists list, the first woman ever to appear there. The reward for her capture rose to $2 million. To authorities, she was a terrorist. To supporters, a persecuted revolutionary. This move solidified the stark divide in how her story is told. The battle over her image became as fierce as the hunt for her capture. U.S. officials, especially in New Jersey, responded to Assata Shakur's death with frustration and regret. They saw her passing as the justice system's final failure. She died free, never returning to serve her sentence. Statements from state leaders emphasized the pain of Trooper Foerster's family and the unfinished business of justice. Law enforcement viewed her escape and exile as a lasting wound, a symbol of a system that failed to hold her accountable. Officials vowed to oppose any effort to bring her remains back to the U.S., seeing it as an insult to Foerster's memory. The reaction was about more than one fugitive. It was about honoring a fallen officer and upholding the law. Even in death, Assata remained a source of controversy and unresolved anger. For authorities, her story ends not with closure, but with frustration. The debate over justice in her case continues. Assata Shakur's legacy extends beyond politics. She was the step-aunt and godmother of rapper Tupac Shakur. Tupac's family ties to the Black Power movement brought Assata's story into popular culture. He referenced her in music and interviews, casting her as a freedom fighter, not a criminal. For many fans, Tupac was their introduction to Assata's story and ideals. Her name became a symbol in protests, art, and music, keeping her story alive for new generations. The connection to Tupac added a personal, cultural dimension to her legacy. Even after Tupac's death, their bond ensured Assata's story remained relevant. She became both a revolutionary icon and a beloved family figure. Assata Shakur's legacy is sharply divided. Hero to some, criminal to others. Law enforcement and Trooper Foerster's family see her as a convicted murderer who escaped justice. They argue her actions and BLA ties prove her guilt, and honoring her is an affront to victims. Her supporters, however, view her as a political prisoner, targeted for her activism and unfairly tried. They cite evidence and context, COINTELPRO, racism, and her injuries, as proof of her innocence. For them, her escape was survival, not evasion. Assata's story is invoked by activists, scholars, and artists as part of a broader struggle for justice. Her autobiography and writings inspire those fighting oppression. Whether villain or hero, her story remains a powerful symbol of resistance and controversy. With Assata Shakur's death, her story becomes history, but its relevance endures. Her life and legacy continue to spark conversations, not just about her own actions, but about the broader struggles that shaped her world and ours. Her life forces us to confront questions about justice, race, and power that still divide America. The issues she faced, systemic racism, police violence, and the fight for equality, remain at the heart of national debates today. The debate over her legacy mirrors ongoing struggles, from Black Lives Matter to U.S.-Cuba relations. Her story is invoked by activists and critics alike, each side finding meaning in her choices and the controversies that followed. Her words, "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. We have nothing to lose but our chains," still echo at protests. These words have become a rallying cry, inspiring new generations to demand justice and challenge oppression wherever it exists. Assata's story bridges past and present, connecting the Black Power era to today's fight for racial justice. Her journey reminds us that the struggle for equality is ongoing, and that the lessons of history are never far from today's headlines. Her case also highlights the complex politics between the U.S. and Cuba, remaining a point of tension for decades. The international dimension of her story shows how the fight for justice can cross borders and shape foreign policy. Ultimately, her journey is a human drama about freedom, survival, and the cost of resistance. It's a story of sacrifice, resilience, and the personal toll that comes with standing up to power. Whether seen as a hero or a villain, her life is a vital chapter in American history. Her actions and beliefs force us to examine our own values and the kind of society we want to build. Her death ends her time as a fugitive, but not the debate. The questions she raised, about justice, freedom, and the meaning of resistance, will continue to challenge and inspire. Assata Shakur's story will be argued and remembered for years to come, a testament to the enduring power of one woman's fight for justice and the ongoing struggle for equality in America.